We've got tips and recipes for healthy living. So for fun and inspiration, come and join us in the raw food world.
Aside from the physical, emotionally, socially, spiritually, romantically, you name it, Lee, my life was just like just shifting in every possible way. The physical stuff is what kept me going in the beginning. You know, that's really why I got onto this path. And the changes were so dramatic. You know, every time I looked in the mirror, I felt like I was looking at someone new. I was like, oh my God, I've got a collarbone. You know, I hadn't seen this thing for like 12 years or something. I have ribs. That was like this huge revelation one night in bed. I was like, there's bone in there, you know? Because I just had been this huge lump of like jello for years. And the idea that I had like a skeletal structure and everything was starting to change. The way that I walked, I used to only walk with the bottom half of my legs, pretty much, because my thighs were so big, they were like rammed together. And so suddenly I could walk with the whole of my legs. And I was like, whoa, look at me go. And, you know, everything, all my clothes were falling off, all my jewelry, everything was changing. And socially it was challenging at times, for sure. It can be really challenging for people to change so dramatically their way of being. People were used to seeing me eat plate after plate of pasta and pizza and cakes and cookies, and suddenly, you know, there I was with my celery sticks. And everybody was laughing at me, joking, and, you know, George has really lost it now, she's totally gone crazy, until they started to see the amazing changes that were unfolding, and not just at the physical level. You know, suddenly I was finally willing to look people in the eye and to genuinely connect with people, rather than just being in this shut down bubble all the time of just thinking about food and when am I going to eat next and get out of my way, and you know, that insanity of food compulsion, which I don't know if any of you can identify with, but it seems to me that it's pretty prevalent in our societies these days. Whether somebody ends up in an overweight or obese body or not, you know, we can have really twisted emotional connections with food, which is actually the subject of my book Raw Emotions, which just came out a couple of years ago. It's all about those emotional connections with food and how to restructure them if we want to. Not everybody wants to. Not everybody wants to look at that stuff, because it can get gnarly when you start to look at, okay, why on earth do I seem to eat when I'm bored, when I'm happy, when I'm celebrating, when I'm sad, because I feel like I deserve it, and all these myriad reasons that humans seem to come up with in our societies especially for why they consume food, when if you look at simple tribal people or animals living in the wild, it seems to me that their relationship with food is much more about fueling the physical body, right? Rather than these intense emotional connections with food that many of us can develop for whatever reason, whether it's the conditioning of our families, it's the media influences around us. There's so many reasons why we come to where we are with these crazy relationships with food. And I feel like it's really important to realize we can turn those around completely if we want to. We don't have to keep acting out those patterns. You know, I'm living proof that you can change from having that completely introverted, intense relationship with food to just living a life of joy and genuine love and connection with people, rather than connecting to food in that way. So, about 2 years into my raw food journey, I started to eat totally raw again, and I have done ever since. So for something like 7 years, something like that, I've been eating totally raw. And for me, that worked really well, to have that transition period at the beginning, because most people are not like Mr. Monarch, who was just speaking to you. He probably told you that he went 100% raw overnight in New York City like 14 years ago or something, and he's never taken a step back. The man has the most dynamic focus of any being I've met. So most people are not like him, right? Most people kind of meander in the beginning and wobble backwards and forwards, and I feel like it's really important to honour those individual journeys. From what I have seen over the years with people changing their lifestyles very dramatically, is much better to take the baby steps, right? Like with most changes in our lives, much better to take things slowly, and you're much more likely to stay with it than to jump into something full force and then you're just kind of ricocheting off the walls. This happens a lot with raw food. People jump into it 100% and they're all about it and they want everyone about them to become raw foodists, and they turn into like the raw food Nazi for a while and then you never hear from them again. So I much prefer to see people take it slowly. Just even adding in more greens, more raw foods is just a great start for people. The point I've come to in my life now, so I've been eating this way for 9 years. The weight has just stayed off ever since it came off. I don't get ill anymore, which is just incredible to me compared to the background I'm coming from. I don't take any medications. I can tell you the last time I went to a doctor. And more importantly to me, I'm genuinely happy in life. You know, now I just feel so blessed to be living the life that we are here, surrounded by nature and wonderful communities starting to form around. Being in the sun, the fresh air, the clean water, all of these things. You know, when I was that miserable teenager, I think if you'd asked me if I was happy, I would have said yes. I didn't know that there was anything different, you know. And now looking back with hindsight, I'm like, man, my life is pretty much unrecognizable, you know, from those days. I read my diaries from those days, like, who wrote this stuff? You know, I was so toxic in my thinking, in my relationships to other people, in everything. I was so angry and bitter. And of course that meant that as I went through this journey of transformation, there was a lot for me to let go of, masses to let go of, not just physically, you know, emotionally, every level, so much to let go of. And I think that's probably been one of my biggest lessons in this whole transformation, is just being willing to let go. Because we can all hold on to anything we want, right? We can hold on, you know, I had like this fat fortress like this that I was holding on to, like, keep away from me! And we can hold on emotionally to our stories and our patterns and this and that. And the more that you're willing to breathe into all of that stuff and let go of your attachments to it and say, actually, I was doing all that stuff, it doesn't really seem to have been serving me, this is the kind of life I'd like to lead, then, you know, if you're willing to do that, you can really create miracles in your own life of transformation. And yeah, I feel extremely blessed to be here. I would love to tell you as well that one of my passions in life is singing, and I love to make raw food songs. So I have various songs on YouTube that you can check out if you feel like it. I love to take musical songs and make raw food versions of them, like songs from The Sound of Music and stuff. So my main website is rawreform.com.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again at the Raw Food World.